Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie Esther here, and oh my gosh, Paulie Esther, did you see that Dead by Daylight is being followed by Tony Todd on Twitter? If I had $1 for every time that somebody has said that to me over the last couple of weeks, well, I'd have a few dollars. I don't know exactly, but it happened a lot of times. You get the point. All right, so now we're going to take a critical look at this information and decide, does it mean anything? Is it circumstantial evidence to make a case? Let's go. You got your tinfoil hat? Let's get started. Okay, so first off, who is Tony Todd? For those of you who don't know, he's an American actor with a resume as long as his arm. He starred in many television and film projects, so many in fact that I would be surprised if you haven't at least seen him in something. Television credits include shows like X-Files, Smallville, Stargate SG-1, Andromeda, Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And then for film, we have the Academy Award winner Platoon, The Rock, the Final Destination series. But I think he's most well known for the Candyman trilogy of films, which is about to add a fourth film to that with the Jordan Peele reboot, which was due out on June the 12th, but due to current events, I believe it's been pushed back to September now. Anyway, we're going to look at what Tony follows on Twitter, and does it mean anything? Okay, I'm going to backtrack for just a minute to talk about what first put me onto this story. It was late February. I was in Boston at PAX. I was in my hotel room waiting for my roommate to arrive from the airport so that we could go out to dinner together. And I freshened up, so I had some time. I put on the TV, put on YouTube. I knew the Candyman trailer was dropping that day, and I was very excited to see it, so I watched it. Candyman is like a very special movie for me. It was the first movie that I had ever seen in the theater with my friends. It was a horror film, and it really stuck with me from the moment I had seen it. I've also seen the sequel, which I enjoy. The third movie I've never seen. It was direct to DVD, so I can't judge it, but I think the first two films are really great. So I was very excited to see what Jordan Peele was going to do with this reimagination of the Candyman franchise. So not only am I excited for the new Candyman movie, it's been no secret that Candyman has been at the top of my list for one of the horror icons that I would like to see brought into Dead by Daylight. His character is really fascinating to me in that he is this tragic villain that was created by society. He was just this beautiful artistic soul who was guilty of nothing but loving someone that society didn't agree with, and all their maliciousness and hate that was rained down upon him for it turned into this character who was a reflection of their hatred, and that's why he became the villain. It's just a very interesting and tragic concept to me, and I would love to see it come to Dead by Daylight, so perhaps I am biased when looking at all of this quote-unquote evidence. Another personal connection that I have with the Candyman film is that it's set around my university. The University of Illinois at Chicago is the setting for at least 3 different scenes in the movie. You see that overhead shot of that beautiful outdoor amphitheater, and then the classrooms, of course, and then there's a parking garage scene where Candyman confronts Helen. I believe all 3 of those scenes took place at my school, so I have like an added connection to this film. So I've seen the trailer, I go about my business at PAX, enjoy the entire weekend, and then at the end of PAX on the final day when I'm about to come home, I get this message from Corn Nick on Twitter who says, "Hey, look at this. Tony Todd liked my chapter idea for Candyman in Dead by Daylight." And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. So I look, and Tony happens to be one of only 12 people who liked this tweet. And Tony isn't tagged in it at all. It just says hashtag DVD, hashtag Candyman, and Tony Todd liked it. And I thought, well, that's curious. So then I thought, well, the trailer did just drop, so maybe Tony's searching hashtag Candyman and liking all the things that he sees just to show his appreciation for people who are hyped up for the new film. But then when you look closer, you see that, wow, Tony Todd follows 15,000 people on Twitter. That's massive. And in the past, I've been able to show you all that you can look at who someone is following on the computer, and it will show you in chronological order, in which order they started following people. We did this with Pennywise and things like that, right? So this shouldn't be new to you if you're familiar with the channel. So if you go through Tony's follows, people make a big deal about the fact that Tony is following Dead by Daylight. But if you look at when he followed Dead by Daylight, you can see that he followed Dead by Daylight right after he followed the Candyman movie. So, is that significant? Is that like, okay, the movie's coming out, the trailer's out, there's also something coming with Dead by Daylight as licensed, so I want to like both of these things back to back, or is it just coincidence? I don't know. I think there's some significance there in the back-to-back follows. So if we look at the Candyman movie account, the first time that they ever tweeted anything would have been February the 25th. So we know that most likely, it seems unlikely that Tony would follow the Candyman movie before they ever tweeted. So it seems likely that Tony Todd followed the Candyman movie sometime between February 25th and February 29th when Corn Nick sent me that post that Tony liked about DBD. So somewhere in that window, Tony Todd back-to-back liked the Candyman movie Twitter account and the Dead by Daylight Twitter account. So I went home with that knowledge and I just parked it. We hadn't even had Chains of Hate with the Death Slinger come out yet, so it seemed a little inappropriate to start talking about Chapter 16, even though people wanted me to. I'm like, let's just let Chains of Hate come out and let it settle and stand on its own before we start hyping up the next chapter. And now the lid is starting to come off of this thing. I'm just getting inundated with this, hey, did you know Tony Todd follows DBD over and over again, so it's time to address it. And I tried to do my due diligence on it because I had a tweet that somebody sent to me and tagged me in it about Tony Todd, and I liked it, and then Tony Todd liked it. And we were the only two people to like this tweet, and Tony's name wasn't mentioned in it. Like, his name was mentioned in it, but he wasn't tagged in it. And I thought, how in the heck does he find this tweet? What is going on? Is he just searching his name on Twitter and liking things? Then it occurred to me, whoa, what if he has a bot? Maybe he has a bot that's auto-liking all of this stuff. So I put out a couple of experiments in there with Tony Todd's name in it to see if he would come back with a like. And a couple of other people did the same thing on my behalf just to see if there would be any hits. And it was very generic that it just talked about Tony and works that he had been in, but it didn't talk about Dead by Daylight. And they went by unliked. So then I thought, okay, this isn't a bot. He's actually liking this stuff himself. There isn't an automated program doing it. And I was able to also go through and find examples of his name or Candyman and Dead by Daylight mentioned that he didn't like. So it was definitely not a bot involved. I do believe that he as a human being is liking these tweets. And now I'm going to show you a clip from an interview that Tony Todd did with Flatline TV on YouTube. I will have a link to the description of the video if you want to watch it in its entirety. This bit gives you a sense of just how hands-on, or at least in the know, Tony Todd is about the Candyman product and the licensing things that are going on behind the scenes. Check this out.
Can you tell us anything about the film or anything about your role or anything? Nothing. Well, we're excited.
I can tell you this, there's going to be a new Necco feature, featuring that's about, I don't know, 17 inches high.
Okay.
That has different coats and stuff you can put on, and there's going to be a new Funko.
So from that video, we can see that it's very apparent that Tony Todd is well versed in what is going on with licensing for Candyman. The NECA information isn't that surprising to me because they do a lot of toy fairs where they showcase things like that. But when he mentions Funko at the end, I am completely unaware of any Funko product that's coming for Candyman. I looked on the Reddit even. I looked for leaks, usually a few months in advance. We know what is coming out from Funko for Funko Pops. There isn't a Candyman Funko Pop. It doesn't exist. So to hear Tony Todd say that something's coming from Funko, it makes me think that he definitely knows what is going on with licensing projects for Candyman. And I think that Tony's information is right on the money here about a Funko Candyman license. I would be shocked if we don't have Funko Pops of Candyman by the end of the year. We saw that Funko worked with Universal Pictures to make Funko Pops of Jordan Peele's 2 other films, Get Out, and Us, of which I own several. So I would be completely blown away if they don't make a Candyman Funko Pop this year. We'll just have to keep our eye on the Reddit and see if there are any leaks or sneaks from the factories of a Candyman Funko Pop. But I believe that Tony knows a lot of things about Candyman, Funko being maybe the least of them. And also regarding the licensing, I think we should keep in mind that if Candyman were to come to Dead by Daylight, he would become the first licensed killer that isn't either wearing a mask or is disfigured in some way that you can't really tell who it is. Like, this is Tony Todd, so he would need to be involved, I would think, to sign off on his likeness rights. So maybe that's why he knows about this. So, if you're asking me for my opinion, do I think it means anything? Yes, I think Tony is busting at the seams to be part of Dead by Daylight, and I think that he already is, but they just haven't announced it yet, and he's not allowed to say anything. All he does is like these things. I can show you many, many examples of things that he has liked where somebody has talked about Dead by Daylight and Candyman, and I think that if he wasn't part of it, he'd be more vocal, saying, hey, when are you going to get me in the game to Dead by Daylight? I think he's probably already in the game, already coming for Chapter 16, and that's why he's just liking these things, because he's busting at the seams because he can't wait to tell people about it and is super excited. That's my personal opinion on it. So, Paulie, so what you're saying is that your case for Candyman coming to Dead by Daylight is built on the circumstantial evidence of some follows and liked tweets on Twitter by Tony Todd? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If you're somebody who needs a little bit more to go on, and you also believe that Dead by Daylight puts in clues that talk about a future chapter, I would point to the Plague's Dark Devotee outfit, in which it has the beeswax sensor, which has bees' eggs in it. And then I could also point to the April Fool's Day prank that the Dead by Daylight official Discord did, where everybody changed their name into worker bees of certain numbers. The whole Discord server turned into a hive of bees. And if you know anything about Candyman, you know that bees surround that character. If you need even a little bit more than that to convince you, let's review. Remember when Ash Williams came to Dead by Daylight and they told us that that came about because they were already renegotiating the Saw license so that they could get additional cosmetics for Amanda Young, the pig, and Detective Tappan Dead by Daylight, and they looked and they said, hey, you guys own the rights to Ash Williams too, and then they put that in as a side deal. So you may remember that they recently gave us some additional cosmetics for the Halloween chapter with Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, the rights which I believe are owned by Universal Pictures. So if they're already there talking to Universal Pictures, maybe they were talking to Universal about Candyman, and that's how they made the segue into getting the additional cosmetics for Halloween, or vice versa. But we know that they did talk to Universal in some capacity to make those Halloween cosmetics happen. So perhaps at the same time they were talking about the Candyman license too. So yes, I think that Candyman is definitely coming to Dead by Daylight. I haven't been this convinced about something since the Stranger Things and Ghostface days of speculation. Could I be wrong? Of course. But my gut is telling me that it's right. Even if you look at the original release date for the Candyman movie on June 12th, it's scheduled right around when we would see a Chapter 16 release. It makes sense to tap into Jordan Peele, this hot actor that's doing very interesting things in the horror genre, and it would allow them to get Candyman in the new movie, plus go in the back catalog. You could get a lot of different iterations of Candyman and outfits. It seems like the best time to approach this license. If they aren't doing it now, then when? I think that Candyman is going to be very hot this summer, and it's a good idea to tap into him. It seems like a no-brainer. So tomorrow we'll have another video talking about what could Candyman's power be, who would be the corresponding survivor that would go along with him, what would be a potential location for a themed map surrounding the Candyman universe. We'll dive into that, and talk more about Candyman. But for now, I'm hungry. I think I'm going to go get a nice piece of cheesecake. Sweets to the sweet. And thank you all for watching. Take care of each other in the fog. We'll see you next time, and bye-bye.